All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. Peaceful greetings, folks. My name is Cortland Butts. I am the safety officer for the National Association of Black Scuba Divers. And it is my pleasure to welcome you all to the Saturday Scuba Tips, live by AquaCorps. Our AquaCorps member and current summit chair and current social media chair and current correspondence person, Jennifer Ford. This was her idea to offer Saturday Scuba Tips just from the membership in general. And one day she came along and said, what if AquaCorps offered one live once a month? So every third Saturday of the month, AquaCorps, because our objectives, we have what we call STEP objectives: safety, training, education, and professionalism. We offer this in part to honor those objectives, something to our membership. And as y'all know, the closer that we get to a summit, the more that we get really specific around that site and what you need to look out for in terms of the diving. This particular month, our president, our current president and AquaCorps member, he's the one that got me talked me into being into AquaCorps. He said, you know what, I made some connections in some other fields and other communities in the dive industry, and I'd like to bring them in on the professional aspect of AquaCorps because I want to expand the network. So technically, our guest today is the guest of Dr. Anthony Ford. I'm going to go ahead and let him introduce his guest. And I know that some of y'all have heard this narrative before, but I want to stick to format for consistency. Typically in AquaCorps, we tell people, this is how I got started scuba diving. This is why I joined NABS. This is why I joined AquaCorps, and then the topic for the day. But in this case, it's going to be, here's our industry guest for the day. Anthony, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Brother Cortland. I appreciate it. For those of you that I have not met, my name is Anthony Ford. I'm currently the president of the National Association of Black Scuba Divers, and I am honored to present our guest today. Our guest today has extensive military history and training and in service. He is someone that I met a couple of years ago in his role as Chief Executive Officer for NAUI and the Executive Director for the NAUI Board of Directors. He was one of my first introductions into NAUI. When I met him, I found him to be intelligent, articulate, focused, and clear on what he wished to accomplish. So he and I bonded right away. We had a chance to work a little more closely last year, and that reinforced my opportunity to work with him, learn from him, and learn a lot more about him. He has elevated his status by becoming president and chief executive officer for DAN, where he has taken that same leadership role, that same tenacity and professionalism to, I guess, the largest insurance agency for scuba diving in the world. I owe Cliff a lot. Cliff is the reason why Mr. Aviad Kahana, the inventor of the Avelo system and CEO of Avelo Labs, came to speak with us last month. Cliff also introduced me to Renee Huseman, who is the International Training Director for Ocean Reef. He will be our speaker in June. Cliff and I took our instructor and instructor trainer course together. And so I am deeply indebted to him for exposing me to areas of the diving industry that I never knew about. It is also because of him that I got exposed to Teams, Microsoft Teams, which is our current operational program. So I don't want to take up too much time. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce my friend, my colleague, and someone that I have a tremendous amount of respect and appreciation for, Mr. Cliff Richardson, CEO and President of Divers Alert Network.
Thank you so much, Anthony. I really appreciate that introduction. You're way too kind. I'm just going to move some screens around real quick and then share my presentation with everyone. And hopefully everyone can see the presentation. Can everybody see the presentation okay? And I've got transcripts turned on.
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Well, good afternoon. First of all, let me begin by thanking Dr. Anthony Ford for inviting me and all of you for the opportunity to be here with the National Association of Black Scuba Divers. It's an honor to spend some time with you, especially with the community that serves such an important role in expanding access, representation, mentorship, and excellence in diving. NABS represents far more than participation in the sport. You represent leadership. You represent legacy. You represent the idea that underwater world belongs to everyone who's willing to approach it with respect, preparation, and responsibility. I'm here today in my role as president and CEO of the Divers Alert Network, but more importantly, I'm here as someone who believes deeply in the future of diving. Dan's mission is centered on diver safety through medical support, research, education, and emergency assistance. But Dan cannot accomplish that mission alone. Safety does not live inside one organization. It does not belong to one training agency, and it's not the responsibility of one instructor, one boat captain, one dive master, or one physician. Safety is a culture, and it's shared across all participants. It's something we either build together or we leave to chance. The theme of today's presentation is simple. Safety should be a standard, not a goal. A goal is something that we hope to reach. A standard is something that we commit to every single time. A goal can be aspirational. A standard is operational. A goal can be discussed at the beginning of the season. A standard shows up. A standard shows up on the boat, at the quarry, on the beach, in the pool, during the briefings, during the buddy check, and in the decisions we make underwater. So today I want to talk about how we move safety from something we talk about to something we normalize. And I want to focus specifically on the role of continuing education, not as a collection of certification cards, but as a practical tool for building safer and more capable and more confident divers. The standard we set becomes the culture we keep. That's true in every high consequence environment. It's true in aviation. It's true in emergency medicine. It's true in the military. It's true in commercial operations, and it's absolutely true in diving. When we say safety is a goal, we can unintentionally make it sound optional or aspirational, something we're working towards, something we'll get to, something that we hope happens if everything goes right. But diving requires more than hope. A standard is visible. It can be observed, it can be repeated, it can be taught, it can be mentored, and it can be corrected when it starts to drift. A safety standard looks like planning that happens every time, not only when conditions are difficult. It looks like buddy checks that are never skipped, not even when we're diving with somebody that we know well. It looks like gas rules that are understood and honored, not negotiated underwater. And it looks like emergency actions that are practiced, not simply assumed. And most importantly, a safety standard becomes part of the group's identity. People begin to understand this is how we dive and this is what we do. This is what's normal here. That matters because culture is powerful. A new diver entering a strong safety culture will adopt what they see. If they see discipline, they learn discipline. If they see shortcuts, they learn shortcuts. And if they see a community where experienced divers model humility, preparation, and continuous learning, then those values become contagious. At Dan, we see the consequences when small decisions compound. Most diving incidents do not begin with one dramatic failure. They often begin with ordinary deviations from good discipline, a skip check, a vague plan, an assumption about someone's skill level, a minor equipment concern that's ignored, or a diver that is not honest about their comfort or readiness. That's why safety has to be normalized before the problem begins. Safety is not what we hope for, safety is what we normalize. The standard lives in the moments before the dive. This is where many incidents begin, and it's also where many incidents can be prevented. Before the dive, we have a window of opportunity that we can assess, we can plan, we can check, we can brief, and we can make decisions while we are still calm, dry, warm, and thinking clearly. The first step is to assess. That means looking honestly at the conditions. What's the current doing? What's the visibility? What is the temperatures? What's the surface condition? What's entry and exit going to be like? Are there boat traffic issues? Is there a surge? Is this a site that matches everybody's experience level in the entire group? But assessment's not only environmental, it's also personal. Am I fit to dive today? Did I get a good night's sleep? Am I hydrated? Am I distracted? Am I dealing with stress from work? Am I diving because I'm ready or because I don't want to disappoint members of the group? The second step is to plan. A dive plan is not just depth and time. It includes gas management, separation procedures, louse diver protocols, turn pressures, maximum depth, expected route, exit strategies, and what we'll do if the dive changes. The third step is to check. Equipment checks are not ceremonial, they're functional. Is the air on? Are my releases secured? Are my weights configured properly? Can the diver ditch weight if needed? Is my alternate and second stage accessible? Are my inflators working properly? Is my computer set correctly? Is each diver actually ready? The fourth step is the brief. A good briefing creates shared expectation. Who's leading the dive? Who's navigating? What signals are we using? What's our gas rule? When do we turn? What happens if we become separated? And who has a surface marker buoy? What's the emergency plan in and out of the water? This is where standards become practical. And here's the point I want to emphasize. The standard is not the maximum level of excellence we hope to achieve. The standard is the minimum acceptable routine, even on the easiest of dives, especially on the easiest of dives. It's because complacency rarely shows up looking dangerous. It usually shows up disguised as familiarity. Continuing education is risk mitigation, and that's the core argument I want to make today. Continuing education is not about collecting certification cards. It's not about filling a binder, adding another plastic card to a wallet, or chasing credentials for the sake of credentials. A certification does have value. It documents that training occurred. It may establish prerequisites, and it may open the door to certain experiences. But the card itself is not the standard. The standard is capability. The question should not simply be, have I been certified in this? The better question is, can I perform this skill today in this environment under realistic conditions when something does not go according to plan? That is the distinction between a certification card mentality and a capability mindset. A certification card mindset says, I took a course once. The capability mindset says, I can perform this dive today. A certification card mindset treats skills as something completed. A capability mindset treats skills as something that are maintained. A certification card mindset can lead divers into new environments with old habits. A capability mindset asks, does my training match the dive I'm about to do? This is why continuing education matters. Diving changes, environments change, equipment changes, our health changes, our comfort levels change. Our experience can expand, but our bad habits can also become deeply ingrained. Continuing education gives us structure to evaluate and improve. It allows us to add new skills, refresh old ones, and expose ourselves to scenario-based decision-making before we need those decisions in real time. It also helps us become more honest divers. The more we learn, the more we understand how much there is to manage. That humility is healthy. The safest divers I know are not the ones who believe they have mastered everything. They're the ones who keep learning, keep practicing, and keep respecting the environment. So the card is evidence of training, but the standard is evidence of readiness. So, how should divers think about continuing education? I suggest we think about it as a map of risk gaps. The question is not, what course can I take next? The better question is, where does my current diving create risk and what training would help close that gap? Let's start with core control. This includes buoyancy, trim, weighting, propulsion, and situational awareness. These are foundational skills. They affect nearly everything else we do underwater. Poor buoyancy can damage the environment, increase gas consumption, create stress, separate teams, and make emergencies harder to manage. A diver who is properly weighted, stable, streamlined, and aware has more mental capacity available for decision making. The next is environment. A diver trained and comfortable in warm, clear, shallow water may not be prepared for low visibility. Cold water, altitude, dry suit use, night diving, or deeper profiles. None of those environments are inherently inappropriate, but they require matching skills. The environment should drive the training plan. Then there's navigation and team diving. Navigation is not just about finding the boat. It's about reducing stress, maintaining team integrity, maintaining the dive plan, and avoiding preventable problems. Buddy awareness is also a skill. It does not happen automatically because two people entered the water at the same time. It has to be practiced. Then we have rescue and response. This is one of the most important categories of continuing education. Stress recognition, rescue skills, emergency oxygen, CPR, AED use, first aid, and emergency action planning all move safety from an individual concept to team capability. Finally, there are specialized and technical pathways: side mount, wreck, cavern, cave, nitrox, decompression, rebreathers. These are not simply advanced because they sound exciting. They involve special procedures and hazards, equipment configurations, and failure points. They require appropriate training, currency, discipline, and mentorship. The point isn't that not every diver should take every course. The point is that every diver should have a learning plan that matches the diving that they actually want to do and the diving that they actually do. A course is most valuable when it closes a real risk gap. Across the diving industry, there are many strong training pathways available through agencies such as PADI, SSI, NAUI, SDI, TDI, and others. I want to be very clear about something. The purpose here is not to compare the agencies or suggest that one pathway is the only pathway. Dan works across the diving community. Safety is bigger than agency affiliation, and the more important question is whether divers are receiving quality instruction, practicing meaningful skills, and applying those skills appropriately. For example, through PADI, divers may pursue courses such as Advanced Open Water, Rescue Diver, Enriched Air Nitrox, Peak Performance Buoyancy, Deep Diver, and Wreck Diver. Through SSI, divers may pursue programs such as Advanced Adventurer, Advanced Open Water, Diver Stress and Rescue, Perfect Buoyancy, Deep Diving, Enriched Air Nitrox. NAUI, divers may pursue Advanced Open Water, Rescue Scuba Diver, Nitrox, Master Scuba Diver, Dry Suit Diver, and other continuing education options. Through SDI and TDI, divers may pursue SDI Rescue, Computer Nitrox, and for those moving towards more technical environments, TDI Intro to Tech, Advanced Nitrox Decompression Procedures, Side Mount, Cavern, Cave, and related training. Each of these pathways can be extremely valuable when used properly. The mistake is thinking the value comes from the card alone. It does not. The value comes from the instructor, the standards, the practice, the feedback, the judgment, and the diver's willingness to integrate that training into real behavior. A buoyancy course is only valuable if it changes how you dive. A rescue course is only valuable if it changes what you notice. A nitrox course is only valuable if it improves your understanding of gas planning, oxygen exposure, and operational discipline. A wreck course is only valuable if it increases respect for overhead hazards, entanglement risks, navigation and limits. And technical courses are only valuable if they produce discipline, not overconfidence. So when I look at continuing education across agencies, I do not see competing logos. I see tools. And the question for each diver is, what tool do you need to become a safer, more capable diver and more useful to your team? Rescue training is by and far one of the most important turning points in a diver's development. Not because it turns divers into heroes. In fact, good rescue divers are usually not adrenaline driven. They are observant, calm, early, and disciplined. Rescue training changes how divers see risk. The first shift is learning to recognize stress before it becomes panic. Stress, stress often speaks quietly before it becomes loud. It may show up as unusual breathing, fixation, silence, confusion, poor buoyancy control, separation, or a diver who stops communicating. A trained diver begins to notice those early signs. The second shift is learning to stabilize. Sometimes the most important intervention is not dramatic. It may be stopping the escalation, helping establish buoyancy, making eye contact, slowing the movement down, communicating early, getting the diver to the surface in a controlled way, calling for support early. The third shift is learning to respond. If an incident progresses, the team needs to know what to do. How do we assist at the surface? How do we remove the equipment? How do we provide emergency oxygen? Who calls emergency medical services? Who manages the boat? Who watches the rest of the group? Where's the emergency action plan? What information needs to go with the diver as they're evacuated? The fourth shift is learning to debrief. This is critical. A safety culture does not hide its near misses. It learns from them, not with blame, not with embarrassment, not with ego, but with seriousness and humility. What happened? What did we see early? What did we miss? What worked? What should change before the next dive? That process turns experience into standards. Rescue training converts "I hope I can help" into "I know my role." And that matters because in an emergency, confusion is expensive. Seconds matter, roles matter, preparation matters. A rescue mindset does not make diving fearful, it makes diving more responsible. Now I want to talk about non-diving courses because these are sometimes overlooked. A dive emergency is not only a diving event, it's a medical event, it's a logistical event, it's a communications event. Bottom line, it is a team event. This is where Dan training becomes especially important. Dan offers first aid and emergency response courses that are directly relevant to divers, dive professionals, boat crews, shore teams, and families. For example, basic life support, CPR, and first aid prepares people to provide care for life-threatening illness or injury until professional help arrives. Emergency oxygen for scuba diving injuries is particularly important in our community. We know that emergency oxygen is a critical first aid intervention for suspected decompression illness and other diving-related injuries, while appropriate medical care is being activated. Pardon me. Diving First Aid and DFA Pro add additional tools, including neurological assessment and hazardous marine life injury response. These are practical skills for real dive environments. And Dan also offers e-learning programs and safety education topics such as prepared diving, dive boat safety, breathing gas quality, and other areas that help divers think more deliberately about risk. The point is that not every important safety course involves descending underwater. Some of the most important safety skills happen on the surface, before and after the incidents occur, when the quality of the response can influence the outcome. And these skills are not only for dive professionals. A family member on the boat can learn CPR. A shore support volunteer can learn oxygen administration. A club officer can maintain the emergency action plan. A trip leader can verify that oxygen is available and that someone present knows how to use it. A diver can learn enough about neurological assessment to provide better information during an emergency call. This broadens safety from an individual skill set to a community capability. And that's where organizations like NAVS are so powerful. You're not just training individuals, you're building communities of readiness. I like to think of safety as a stack. A strong standard has layers. If one layer fails, the system still has support. The first layer is confidence. This means current skills, honest limits, progressive training, not just what you were certified to do years ago, but what you can actually do now. The second layer is readiness. This includes fitness to dive, equipment familiarity, proper weighting, gas planning, and comfort with the dive plan. The third layer is team. Who's your buddy? What's the plan? What are the roles? What happens if you get separated? What signals are you using? Is anybody over task loaded? Is anybody uncomfortable? The fourth layer is environment. Weather, currents, visibility, temperature, entries and exits, marine life, boat traffic, overhead environments, entanglement hazards. These are not background details. They are active parts of the risk picture. The fifth layer is the emergency system: oxygen, first aid, AED, communications, emergency action planning, evacuation pathways, local medical resources, contact with dam. These are things that should not be improvised for the first time during an emergency. The sixth layer is learning culture. This is where the community improves over time. We debrief, we report, we refresh, we mentor, we talk about the near misses. We do not shame people for learning, but we also do not ignore preventable problems. That is a safety stack. By contrast, a training trophy shelf is just a list of courses. It may look impressive, but it does not necessarily tell us whether the diver is safe today. Standards create redundancy. Redundancy saves time when seconds matter. Dive leaders operationalize the standard. This includes instructors, dive masters, trip leaders, club officers, boat captains, experienced divers, and informal mentors. Leadership in diving is not only about a title, it's about influence. The best safety culture is visible, repeated, and easy for new divers to adopt. Before every trip, leaders can review the emergency action plan, verify oxygen availability, check the first aid kit, understand the local emergency resources, evaluate weather and current decision points, and make sure there's a communication plan in place. Before every dive, leaders can normalize buddy checks, confirm gas rules, discuss separation procedures, establish turn pressures, and make sure divers know the plan. During the dive, leaders can monitor task loading, communicate early, and adjust the plan when conditions change. After the dive, leaders can debrief, log incidents or near misses, and identify training needs. This does not have to be complicated. In fact, the best standards are often simple and repeatable. The challenge is consistency. It's easy to do the right thing when the dive is difficult. The real test is whether we do the right thing when the dive feels routine. That is why leadership matters. Leaders make the safer choice the normal choice. When new divers see respected leaders conduct a serious buddy check, they learn that buddy checks are normal. When they hear experienced divers call a dive because something doesn't feel right, they learn that calling a dive is responsible, not embarrassing. When they see mentors take refresher training, they learn that continuing learning is a mark of professionalism, not weakness. That's how standards become culture. NABS has a unique opportunity to lead through the community. Representation matters, mentorship matters, excellence matters, and when those things are combined with a strong safety culture, the entire diving ecosystem becomes stronger. Community standards scale faster than individual intentions. A single diver may intend to be safe, but a community create expectations, habits, and norms that shape hundreds or thousands of dives over time. When safety becomes a shared identity, new divers inherit the right habits. That's powerful. NABS can mentor divers into capability, not card collection. You can normalize refresher dives and rescue drills. You can promote oxygen and first aid readiness at every outing. And you can encourage near-miss learning without blame. You can help divers build learning plans that are based on risk, not ego. You can help new divers see that excellence in diving is not about how deep you went, not about how many cards you hold, or how many destinations you visit. Excellence is about judgment. It's about discipline. It's about respect for the environment, respect for your team, and respect for your own limits. That is especially important in a community that has a legacy role in expanding access to diving. Access must be paired with preparation. Growth must be paired with standards. Inclusion must be paired with mentorship, and opportunity must be paired with safety. Dan is proud to support communities that are doing that work. because of the future of diving depends not only on bringing more people into the water, but helping them stay in the water safely, confidently, and for a lifetime. So, what can we do immediately? I want to suggest 3 practical standards. This first is an annual skills refresh. It does not have to be complicated. It can include buoyancy, trim, weighting, gas sharing, mask skills, DSMB or surface signaling, rescue scenarios, and basic problem solving. The key is that it happens regularly, not because someone failed, not because someone's embarrassed, not because some skilled diver or someone needs to maintain their dive skills. In many professions, recurrent training is normal. Pilots train repeatedly, medical providers recertify, emergency responders drill, military units rehearse. Diving should be no different. The second standard is every trip has a response capability. That means current oxygen provider, a first aid kit, an oxygen unit, an AED where practical, a real emergency action plan. Communications, knowledge of the nearest appropriate medical resource, clear roles if something happens. This is especially important for group outings at remote sites, on boat dives, and during travel. An emergency action plan should not be a document that lives in a folder that no one reads. It should be understood by the people who may need to use it. The third standard is every diver has a learning plan. This is how we move away from card collecting. A learning plan should be based on a diver's actual diving. Are they diving deeper? Then they need a training to the appropriate depth, gas planning, narcosis awareness, and emergency procedures. Are they diving in current? Then they need experience and training for drift procedures, surface signaling, and boat coordination. Are they traveling to remote locations? Then first aid, oxygen, and emergency planning become even more important. Are they mentoring new divers? Then rescue, leadership, and communication skills matter. Every diver should be able to answer, what is the next training that will make me safer, more capable, and more useful to my team? And after every dive, we can ask a simple question. What standard do we strengthen today? That question changes the conversation. It moves us from did we have fun to did we get better? And ideally, the answer is both. So let me bring this back to where we started. Safety is not the goal at the end of a course. It's not the card. It's not a checklist by itself. It's not the briefing by itself. It's not the oxygen kit sitting unopened on the boat. Safety is the discipline that we bring to every dive. It's the humility to keep learning. It's the courage to call a dive. It's the professionalism to conduct the buddy check. It's the maturity to practice rescue skills before we need them. It's the responsibility to have oxygen, first aid, and emergency action plans ready. It's the willingness to debrief honestly. It's the commitment to mentor the next diver well. Dan's role is to support that culture through research, education, medical information, emergency assistance, and partnerships across the industry. But the culture of safety is built by community like yours. NABS has an important voice. You have a history, you have credibility, you have mentors, and you have divers at every stage of the journey. You have the ability to influence what new divers believe is normal. So my challenge today is this. Let's not make safety something we hope for. Let's make it something we require of ourselves. Let's make continuing education a pathway to capability, not a card collection. Let's make oxygen readiness, first aid, rescue skills, and emergency planning part of every serious dive culture. Let's make mentorship a safety tool. Let's make the safer choice the normal choice, because when safety becomes the standard, it becomes the culture. And when it becomes the culture, every diver benefits. I want to thank you for your time, thank you for your leadership, and thank you for what NABS continues to do for the diving community.
Outstanding presentation.
So this
Mr.
final
Cliff
slide
Richardson.
includes, sorry, give me 1 second. This final slide, and I'll provide all these slides and my notes if you want. But this final slide includes selected references for the training examples I mentioned in the presentation. The important reminder here is that course availability, prerequisites, and standards can vary by agency, location, and instructor. Divers should always verify current course requirements directly with the training agency or instructor. The larger message remains consistent across the industry. Continuing education should be purposeful. It should prepare divers for the environments they actually enter, the risks that they are most likely to face, and the roles they may need to play supporting their buddy teams, and their community. I want to thank you again for your time today, for everything that you all do as part of NABS. And with that, I'd be happy to take questions.
Thank you, Cliff.
I am going to stop sharing if I can find it. All right, there we go.
Right. Well, really appreciate your presentation. As a matter of fact, I thought I was going to give a heart and a clap maybe once or twice. I was doing it throughout the presentation.
Well, thank you, Court.
in part because I was like, that's what I said. Or I didn't know that. That was a beautiful way to frame that. That's one of the main things that I really appreciate. So we're going to take some questions, and folks are familiar with Teams. You can either put your question in the chat or raise your hand, and I'll try to bounce between the two. Right now, I have a question from Demi Sims.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks, Cliff, for the presentation. I just really wanted to, I don't know, my cheeks are just like, they're hurting because I'm smiling so much. I really enjoy learning about safety. I know it might not be people's favorite topic, but I really feel very enlightened. I was challenged last week to, level up with NABS and continue my certifications as per usual, as is with my dive club. But I just really love the fact that you really honed in on the consistency, humility, and complacency aspects, because I feel like at times, it's like, oh, I've done this a zillion times. Well, a zillion and one, you might have that accident that you haven't trained for in a while. So I really appreciate the continuing education piece, and it's always something that I'm looking forward to and learning from my NABS leaders here. Like, I've never even met Cortland, but I've seen him talk on these chats a gazillion times. And a few of my mentors all look up to Cortland because they see what he does, they see how he moves. So it's like, through passing, I'm seeing what he does too, and it's helping me become a better leader. So I just want to thank you all for your time, and thank you for the chat.
Thank you, Demi. I appreciate your kind words. We're going to move on right to Stephanie Johnson.
Hello, Cliff. That was fantastic. Thank you so much. My normal career safety is critical, and it's important that we do those checks. I noticed when I read that I don't see people going through that, and I particularly appreciate you mentioning the legacy role of this organization and the responsibility that we have. I want to ask you about Dan. I am a member of Dan. I just started diving 3 years ago, and I wonder what is the biggest contributor to claims that you're seeing for people that need your services?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Stephanie. A lot of it's really across the board. It depends on location. So you get into Asia Pacific, there's a lot of decompression injuries because they're they can be very, very complex dives with some very, very complex currents. But one of the things that we're really working on is making better use of our data. There's a fine line between protecting personal information and then making, really, really good decisions based on the data that's available. And Dan has like about 20 years worth of data, both on the claim side and the medical side, the medical assistance side, that go, I would say, it's not that they go unused. It's just, it's a painful process to have someone sit and sift through the data, de-identify it, and then make really good use of it, especially when we have tools like AI today. Um, so we're working on getting a lot more better data, and then the next piece of that is sharing that data with the larger community. But really, to answer your question, we see everything. We see everything from people mashing their fingers on boats because they get their fingers underneath something they shouldn't, and there's a current, and the boat goes pop, and the rope goes smack, and you know, to somebody panics because they're not experienced, and they jump in a dive site that is maybe a little complicated with some current, and they panic, and then they end up on the surface. Uh, so unfortunately, there you'll always see the big cases that hit the news, and with divers that are in training. Those are the things that are kind of frustrating because you always ask yourself, could that have been preventable? And sometimes the answer is no. I would say by and far uh, the largest cause of activation of our service is usually a cardiac event that was associated with the diving.
Yeah.
We see a lot of that. Older divers, they have some type of event, and it usually gets classified as a drowning because what we know is as soon as you open your mouth and spit that regulator out, you drown. But then, they do the post-mortem, and they find all the enzyme in there that there was some kind of cardiac event that caused the drowning. So get your fitness for dive check.
Thank you.
In just a quick follow-up, if I can, in the aerospace industry, there's a safety reporting system that's non-threatening. Course certification in diving is recommended. I mean, there's no police that I've seen, but in aviation it's a little different. But is there any way people can report things that they've experienced that could be? I guess there'd have to be an agency to
Yeah. So this is
to deal with that.
Yeah, this is an unregulated industry. And I hear there's a lot of talk about we should do things more like the aviation industry. Well, the aviation industry is highly regulated. You got the FFA or FAA. There's other agencies that OSHA regulates it, parts of it, and um, it's one of those really dangerous things because if scuba diving becomes regulated, it changes the entire industry. It'll change accessibility because a lot of dive shops can't afford to pay a bunch of consultants to make sure they stay in compliance. So we have to self-regulate, and the training agencies, they're responsible for their affiliate dive shops, and part of that is, are their dive operations, even though that's not part of their training, they are affiliated with those operations, are doing what they're supposed to do. And Dan plays a part through the insurance. Historically, the insurance hasn't been used to influence behavior, but the insurance is set up in a way to where if you're going to participate, then there's certain things that you have to adhere to. Professional at the professional level, the industry should be policing their leaders. If every agency has a method of I would say what they would quality assurance, where students can go back and give the training agency kind of a Google score of what they experienced, and the agencies, it's up to them to follow up with those instructors if they get a poor report. So, but we have to we have to be honest with each other, be self-policing, and organizations that are like you all, where you've come together and said, we're going to be a community of divers. Uh, you know, be serious about risk management and creating a culture of safety. And you're going to hear me talk about continuing education and these safety things and these risk mitigation strategies for years to come, because they're super important to me. And I'm finally in a position where I can talk and people listen. So, I will continue to be a voice and an advocate for cultures of safety, risk management, and best practices.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie, for your question. Thank you, Cliff. And I have Anthony and then Jennifer Jones, but because of Cliff's last statement, it just leaps right into this question on the chat. I'm just name it real quick because I think he can close it out quickly. Then I'm gonna go to Anthony. And what's being asked is new types of equipment, configurations, etc., gain popularity that have the potential to signify significantly modify aspects of the diving industry and associated risk like full face mask, Avelo systems. Does Dan have a role to explore slash comment on the safety considerations?
So absolutely. We're actually, so if you're a Dan member and you've looked at Q1 Alert Diver, even if you're not a Dan member, you can actually go to the Dan website and access Alert Diver. We did an article. It was an awareness article on the Avelo system in particular. But we're actually conducting a research study starting later this year on the Avelo. And as we learn things about these new systems, the safety things about them, we let the dive industry know through either safety messages or articles in Alert Diver. But absolutely, we have a responsibility to take a serious look at these things and give feedback to the industry. Well, we're constantly looking at rebreathers, maybe not every single system that's out there, but we ultimately decide what we insure and what we don't insure on the insurance side. So that's one way we do things. And additionally, we do research studies on emerging technology and products.
Hmm. Thank you, Cliff.
Great.
Wow, thank you.
Thanks
All
so
right,
much. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Anthony Ford, question.
Thank you, Brother Cortland. Outstanding presentation as always, Cliff. Fantastic job, sir. What was mentioned kind of leads into my question. Dan seems pretty diverse in the things that it participates in. NABS is a reflection of that. A number of our members are scientific divers. Some of them are technical divers. We have partnerships with other entities that are also scientific divers. Are there opportunities for Dan and NABS, for example, to partner regarding scientific diving expeditions or missions or research?
So I would say we don't do a lot of scientific diving. We leave that all to AAUS. We're partners with AAUS. We do have scientists that do research, but it's not classified as scientific diving. We do take interns. There are applications on our website for internships every year. We do scholarships. We do joint endeavors. So you and I can get together and talk about all of those things. The one thing that when I took this role, it was expressed to me and it was very, very important to the board of directors was that we renew the emphasis on what Dan really is, which is the mission. Now, I just want to clarify to everybody because there's this misconception. Dan is not an insurance company. Dan is a research, medical, and safety organization that happens to own several insurance companies, which we then use to fund our mission. So yes, we do have. Everybody knows Dan for the insurance because they want to buy the dive accident insurance. They buy a membership. They're put on a group plan that gives them a base of evacuation coverage if they're 50 miles away from home and some other member benefits. But the insurance is always secondary. And for many years, it hasn't been. That's what I'm bringing back is that the insurance is just a mean to fund the mission.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Cliff. Jennifer Jones, you had your hand up a couple of times and then it would go back down. So
Yeah, mine is more of a statement than a question. Cliff, amazing job. Thank you for sharing that. One of the things that you pointed out was safety standard, and I put it in the chat, and I just wanted to say it to everyone. As a NABS member, one of the important things when I first joined as a brand new diver was the ability to dive safely, and I will always big up our aquacore team. And based on Cliff's presentation today, it aligns with everything that we're doing here in NABS with our safety, with our leveling up, and our education. The camaraderie, the fellowship, the community is the amazing aspect of NABS, but also to be able to grow in this sport, to be safe in this sport, that's another thing that takes it to the next level and why I'm here and wanted to get involved early on. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you. I
Thank you,
appreciate that.
Jennifer. All right. Anybody have any other questions or comments or concerns? All right. Well, we thank you for your time. We really appreciate y'all being here. Thank y'all for this turnout on this Saturday. Again, Cliff, like I said, amazing presentation, and we're looking forward to partnering more. As a matter of fact, you mentioned the annual training. I know for AquaCore, we just made it mandatory for our dive pros that join the committee. We have an AquaCore safety retreat. It's going to go down in Honduras, Utila, Honduras this year. But we're looking for different ways, and we'll talk more offline, that we can have more of Dan's presence. And what I mean by that is a couple years ago, Shelly Wright, that's with you all, she did an amazing job coming to speak to us about this is how important your insurance is, this is what it covers, this is what it doesn't cover. We're like, yeah, so we just got so much more clarity out of it than you just need to get it because you're a dive pro. But she took us a whole lot deeper, and tell her I said hi if you see her, and she's doing a great job. But other than that, we're just looking for different ways that we can grow our professionalism and continue to partner ourselves. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, no, my pleasure, Cortland. And Dan is a resource for you. If you're not a Dan member, I'm a big believer that every diver should be a Dan member. It's a critical safety resource. There's always a reach back if you need a doctor to get advice. You're going to get your annual physical, and your doctor doesn't understand dive medicine. That phone call is not just an emergency hotline. It's a, hey, doc, I need you to talk to the docs at Dan so that you can get my fitness to dive done. So there's a lot of resources that come out of being a Dan member. So I want to make sure that everybody understands that. But also, your membership directly contributes to everything else that we do, maintaining the hotline, doing the research. None of it goes back to the insurance company. It's actually the opposite. The money that's profited from the insurance company goes to the mission side. Some people are confused about that sometimes. It also gives you access to some of the best trip travel insurance programs, as well as dive accident insurance. So as far as your trip to Utila, let us know, and if the timing's right and we have the resources, we can definitely send somebody out there to give us some kind of presentation or a talk. It doesn't have to be on the insurance; it could be on the safety services side, the medical side. We can get together and talk about that.
All right. Thank you so much, Cliff. And just to reiterate what Cliff said, I got to tell you, in real life, at our last summit, we had one of our divers with suspected decompression sickness. We called Dan while we were at the hotel. And I'm telling y'all, Dan stayed on the phone with a speakerphone from the hotel all the way to the hospital. Once we got to the hospital, they were like, okay, you with somebody? Yes. And that's when they got off the phone. They supported us from start to finish. And it turned out that everything was okay, but I'm just letting y'all know that it's worth having, and the support was there the whole time from the time we called. And the member had Dan insurance. That's why we're able to do that. That's why I'm pointing that out there.
I will say for the hotline, you don't have to be a Dan member to access the hotline. We don't turn anybody away on that hotline. That's our giving back to the community and always has been.
Even better. Thank you.
We just may not pay for it.
I did want to say a final thank you to Cliff. You have always been there when I've had a question or had a suggestion or given your thoughts and opinions. And that is deeply appreciated. I can't say thank you enough for your willingness to come and speak. Cliff said the moment that I asked, he said, just let me know when. Then I gave him a date and he said, okay. Then I changed the date. He said, okay. And so he has been an outstanding asset to me. And I'm looking forward to Dan continuing to be an outstanding asset to NABS. To the people who showed up on the call, thank you again. It is this kind of turnout that I think validates the value of these meetings. So a lot of people turned out in force. I hope we continue to do that to support these endeavors. A lot of people are taking a fair amount of time to organize, construct, partner, coordinate, etc. And your presence here validates their efforts. So I want to say thank you to those that showed up. We will continue to try to give you quality presentations like this and continue to bring in members from the dive industry who will have a lot of valuable information to share with us. So thank you again.
All right, folks. Y'all take care. Have a happy
Thanks.
Saturday. Thank you again, Cliff.
Thanks, guys. Thanks,
so
Cliff.
much.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Anthony.
absolutely. Anthony, send me your email address so I can send you the presentation and the script.
You got it.
All right. Cortland, great to
guys.
see you. Everybody,
You
thank you
too.
for your time.
Take
Have
care.
a great rest of your weekend.
All righty.
Happy Saturday, y'all. Ciao.
All right, y'all. Take care.